Hour. Here we go.
Robin, good to see you.
See you.
And looking forward to starting where we left off last time.
Yeah, first let's oh, it says it stopped. Hold on. All right, let's resume. Okay. Um, well, let's refresh our audience on who we are.
Okay. I'm Anu Gulati. I'm a certified energy practitioner specializing in ancestral and emotional healing, and also the author of the book, Heal Your Ancestral Roots. And my whole purpose is to help you release the baggage of the past to create the life you want.
That's amazing. And if you haven't gotten the book, go on Amazon. It's awesome. I've read it. It was very helpful. And I'm Robin Richardson. I'm otherwise known as your psychic girlfriend. I'm a psychic, intuitive, manifestation, transformational coach. I am a Reiki master teacher and I read the Akashic records. And you can find me, TikTok, Instagram, yourpsychicgirlfriend.com.
And you are the best psychic girlfriend I have.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Anu.
So
Go
let's
ahead.
get started. Yeah. So last time we talked about setting intentions, and how to, if you're feeling really overwhelmed, to contrast your current situation with what you would like to have and use that to create an idea to imagine what you would really like to have in your life. And that's where we started. And we also talked about whether the intention needs to be broad or specific. And you had talked about, broader intentions is just as good in the beginning because the idea is to imagine or feel into something different, something possible. And we talked
Yeah.
about the role of emotions and tools you can use to level up your emotional vibration, um, to create something different. So, do you want to add to that, Robin?
Yeah, I think because we talked a lot too about resistance and, I wanted to kind of cover um, what that might be for people. When I say resistance, I know what that means for me, but maybe our listening audience doesn't exactly know what that means. So
Okay.
one of the things that, in my journey, that kept me from having a clear intention or like not even knowing what I wanted was like the fear of failure, like, oh my gosh, if I start this, I'm probably going to fail. So why start this? Um, and do you want me to add to like how to overcome that? Because,
That would be really great.
I think it's important to look at failure as the opposite side of success. It's both like the same kind of coin. So it's two sides of the same coin. And so if you can view any kind of failure as either failing forward or an opportunity for growth, that's going to help you to kind of, if that's your mindset, then you can set more manageable goals, like little steps to
Mm-hmm.
start the journey on setting a goal and knowing that you can achieve these little steps. And that's always a good way to like kind of address fear of failure. So thinking in terms of, well, if I make a mistake or whatever, I can fail forward and learn from it and keep going.
Okay. So I think that's super helpful that fear can prevent you from moving towards a different sort of life that you would want or desire. And
Yeah,
on that note, um, can I talk about how flower essences could help us over there?
100%. Yes.
Yeah. So on the basis of the flower essences, there are four different types of fear that could stop us from moving forward. One of these is fears that we can articulate, um, which can be pretty straightforward. I always want to take the trip to Europe, but I'm afraid of flying. So if you can name the fear or you can articulate the fear, that is mimulus, which is spelled Mimulus. If you don't want to articulate the fear, if you're so afraid of articulating the fear itself, and it's just lurking at the back and you don't want to speak about it to others, you're afraid to bring it up, that is aspen. And if you think of the aspen leaf, it kind of quivers even with the slightest rustle of wind. So that's aspen. And then sort of the paralyzing fear is rock rose. You're just rooted to the spot and you can't move forward. And the last one is, sometimes like someone might be wanting to start their own business and afraid about how will I support my family? What am I going to do here? That's when you have a lot of fear for the ones you love. That is red chestnut. So that's like 4 of the different kinds of fears that could possibly like stop you from moving forward.
Oh, I love that those are great remedies for that. And they're so easy to do. So tell me, I'm curious because I'm not an expert in flower essences, but I have used them. So tell me what happens when you start to use that. Like, what could people expect? And like, share what the protocol is for taking flower essences.
Yeah, so the way you take a flower essence, so first of all, a flower essence is simply like the energetic vibration of the flower preserved in water. I mean, it came from the idea that dew essentially has an energetic healing quality, but it's hard to collect enough dew. So flower essences recreate that healing energy of dew. And it was discovered by a British surgeon in the 1930s, so almost about 100 years ago. And they've been around for a long time. So it's just an infusion of wildflowers preserved in water preserved with brandy. And so when you get it, it's like a dosage bottle like this. You can get a bottle like this. And the flower essence, comes in a similar bottle, smaller bottle. And you just fill this with spring water and put 2 drops of the essence that you want to take. And then take it 4 times a day. 4 drops, 4 times a day. And you're going to start to notice a difference within like 3 weeks or less.
That's pretty quick.
Yes, because all these fears sit in the limbic part of the brain, and those thoughts give rise to the emotions. So the flower essences are working with the energy field and calming the emotions, so that the fear is not triggered, and the emotions sort of start to shift, and that allows you to move forward.
That's perfect. So let's talk about the second one that I've got.
Okay. Yes.
The comfort zone. Yeah, we get so comfortable in our lives that we really resist change because we are comfortable. We are familiar with what's maybe not serving us. I mean, I can't even tell you how long like I sat in my discomfort because I didn't know what the unknown would be like. So one of the ways to break out of the comfort zone is that's helpful is to challenge yourself into taking small risks, trying new experiences, exposing yourself to different perspectives, just with an open mind. And gradually you can start building confidence and resilience. One of the things I do that's more like woo-woo-ish is I take a different route to work or to the workout. Like I take different ways to get different places, in, just to shake up my routine, which then also helps me open up to other energies, whether it's conscious or unconscious. It's pretty cool when you just do one different thing a day.
So this is one that I really resonate with. When I have to do something that's different, like a lot of it has to do with it not being in my comfort zone.
Mhm.
And so imagining even myself as the person who's going to be doing that. skydiving, not my, but it's more like I don't see myself as the kind of person who would go skydiving. Now, that might be something I do at some point, but it becomes like it's so out of my comfort zone. Like, who would I imagine I need to be to do that kind of thing? So that's where I often find that's my barrier that I often have to work through or break through.
Yeah. I have learned that when I do put myself in out of my comfort zone, it's like the most rewarding experience. Even if it doesn't work out, it's like, so I mean, I joined CrossFit 13 years ago, 12, 13 years ago, and every freaking day I put myself out of my comfort zone. And to me, then it just becomes a way of life. It's like, okay, I'm out of my comfort zone, so it's fine. I'm still above ground today. you know?
Yeah. And I think the part that you said about it being like an incremental step,
Mhm.
it's kind of important because I feel like when I do the incremental steps, like I build that muscle of like courage. Um, and that's really what it is.
Yeah.
Um, and
You,
so I look at that and then say, you know what, I've come a long way just because of building that muscle of courage. Now, maybe not enough to have me jump off a plane, but far enough.
I never say never anymore because when I do, then I find myself in the plane strapped to a parachute. And I'm like, what the actual hell? What happened? So I don't say that anymore. I'm always open to the possibility that I might be strapped to a parachute.
All right, Robin, we do that together if we're going to do it.
Okay. And then we'll have plenty of cocktails afterwards.
Yes.
Yeah. So are there any flower essences that help with that?
I think the mimulus and the same fear essences.
Mhm.
Um, and also it's maybe like that part of imagining,
Mhm.
Um, it's not like I've thought about skydiving as something I want to do, but I've thought about other things that I want to do. And I get to them slowly over time, depending on, what takes front and center focus. I do get to it. But and I don't know if this is a good point for us to segue into something, but when we last talked and then we did this, I had this workshop and we talked about intentions
Mhm.
and the resistance that comes up when we want to create something different. And we did it as an sort of embodied exercise where for one person's intention we had somebody represent their intention physically, even if they didn't know what the intention was, and somebody represent the resistance or the block to their intention and see what that felt like. And then what was really interesting, we brought in support for the person, whose intention that was. And as soon as we brought in support for the individual, we noticed that the resistance started to either move away or shrink or dissipate. And so that the intentions seem much more like a possible reality possibility. So maybe you can talk about that, Robin. um how how can you support yourself when you're trying to manifest something different,
I think supporting myself,
or how we should support that intention?
well, what I do is, for me personally, is I try to get really very clear about what it is I want and then admit to myself, because a lot of us don't have the self-confidence to say, I can have it. I don't know how.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how I'm going to get there, which it doesn't matter. In the first step, it's getting very clear about it, about what I want, and owning it. So it could be anything. So let's just say I want a Mercedes Benz. It's just getting clear on that I can have it, and then for me, it's almost like I can go in my inner world and see the car, or even start seeing it on the street, because that's kind of what happens when you set an intention on something. You start seeing signs that other people have it, and if one other person has it, you can have it. So for me, it's constantly reaffirming that if someone has this that I want,
Mm-hmm.
if one person on the planet has it,
Mm-hmm.
I can have it too.
So there's a part about believing.
Mm-hmm.
It's about believing that you can have it.
Yes, that's the first step, because believing is one thing. The internal knowing is another. So
Okay.
how I support myself in this, and I'm going to tell you like a technique that I have been using, which blows my mind, freaking easy to manifest,
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
for me, it has been very easy. And
Mm-hmm.
it's a technique called quantum jumping.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe, and our audience may or may not take it in as it resonates with you, that all possibilities exist at the same time, infinite possibilities. So infinite means a lot of things, but
Mm-hmm.
let's for our discussion here, it's unlimited possibility, unlimited.
Mm-hmm.
We don't even know where the end is, because there
Mm-hmm.
is no end.
Mm-hmm.
We're living all those possibilities at the same time. So if you can accept that concept, you can get yourself into a meditative state by just taking a few deep breaths, getting relaxed. You can lay down. You don't have to like do all, whatever. You can just lay down. You can do it at night before you go to bed when you're completely relaxed. And you see yourself in a hallway. And at the end of this little hallway is a doorway. And on the other side of this doorway is the you who's already living this,
Mm-hmm.
already is driving the Mercedes Benz, who's already in the great relationship or fabulous career. You don't like you, it's on the other side of that doorway.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you're in this relaxed state, you go to the doorway, you open the door and you jump through it. Now, you don't have to like try to visualize anything. You don't have to do anything but just kind of feel the essence of this life path. So literally you're feeling the vibration of the you that has this. You're getting to the frequency of the you that has this. And you only have to spend a few seconds with it. But if, for example, you do see you driving the Mercedes or standing near the beautiful car, you can go to her or him and say, what are your thoughts? Do you have any suggestions for me?
So talking to your future self.
Mm-hmm. But not your future self. It's the you that's already living it.
Okay. So the
Okay.
you
So
that
let's
all.
say you get really clear
Mm-hmm.
and you see that. And if you want to, you can add this added step, is just like step into that body of the you that's living this.
Mm-hmm.
Just feel it for a minute, not even a minute, a few seconds, and then just come back out. You don't have to do anything else. But what you will notice if you're self-aware, and I think the people who are listening to us have a reasonable ability to be self-aware, you may start getting inspirations from the you who drives that car.
Mm-hmm.
And then pretty soon you're going to find yourself in a dealership buying the car. Like, it's not even about how, because everything comes together. And this is like, for me, has been the chef's kiss of all techniques.
Oh, that's interesting.
It's because then I go to the knowing. Because if I can feel it, then I know it. It's not even about hoping for it. It's not about believing I can have it. It's the knowing that I have it on some life path and now I'm on it. And my three-dimensional reality will start to comply with that. That's how the universe works. But the minute I start looking into my three-dimensional and go, where is it? Where's my car? Where's my Mercedes Benz? that's when you are out of alignment, and you just remind yourself to be back in alignment with that, knowing that you have it already.
So maybe you have a story to share, but given that you've been talking about the car, I have a story to share about somebody. Um, and I don't think he was really manifesting all of these techniques and all, but he knew he wanted this little blue sports car. And he had it all visualized. He had been, thinking about it, dreaming about it. And then actually somebody called him and said, um, like the dad or some relative or somebody had this exact same car and didn't want it. And so he got it at a massive discount, and it was just the car he wanted, which is kind of interesting. Like I didn't, I'd forgotten this until we talked just now.
We're
But
so powerful, Anu.
yeah, and I don't know if you have a story where you can share about something that maybe you really visualize, and it's sort of, it's like they talk about the knowing what you need to do, like knowing I need to exercise and doing the exercise, like a knowing doing gap. And this is a believing and knowing gap. And so how do you cross that believing, believing in a possibility and knowing that that possibility could be, not could be, but is yours. um and you're talking,
Well, I do. But the
okay.
funny thing is like sometimes things take time. So I just want, people to understand that, like, you know,
Mm-hmm.
you're not doing it wrong.
Right.
So what I've always wanted to do, I wanted to go to Barcelona,
Mm-hmm.
and I wanted to see Dr. Joe Dispenza and go to his retreats.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very familiar with his work. I would listen to his stuff. I got a book on going to Barcelona, like all that stuff, and things just weren't really working. But I always kind of like, I was just like, no, I'm going. I made a decision. I just didn't know when.
Mm-hmm.
Always something got in the way. Like his retreats fill up so fast,
Mm. Okay.
or I had a job, whatever, like whatever. But I just knew that I was going to be there. So, looking at the YouTube videos of travel to Barcelona, what to eat, like just getting into it.
Mm-hmm.
And then one day I got an email saying Joe Dispenza was having a retreat. And where was he having it?
In Barcelona.
In Barcelona. I was like, I'm going. That's it. It's a no-brainer. So, but then I was like, oh shit, maybe I won't get in, because my belief was that it always fills up fast. So I started making the plans. I made my reservations. I got the airline. I did all that stuff. And then the retreat opened, and I pressed the, payment button, and I was in.
That's awesome.
So I'm leaving on Monday to
You're
go
headed to
to
Barcelona.
Barcelona.
And for those who are listening, you are headed to Barcelona next week.
I'm going next week.
So we can't wait to hear when you come back what it was like.
Yes. And like, Dr. Joe Dispenza, anybody who knows about him, like he talks about changing the brain, a lot of meditation, a lot of quantum physics. So, I am really looking forward to what can occur for me by putting myself out of my comfort zone, by going to a whole different country, going by myself,
Uh-huh.
and going to a retreat that deals with changing your brain and helping you manifest what you want, really. And what I'm trying to do, and I'll be completely candid, is not to have expectations other than I'm going to have a great time no matter what.
Yes.
And I'm
Yes. That's definitely under your control, because it's all about the attitude we're carrying.
Yeah, but there's also a concept that says when you put too much emphasis on an outcome, then that actually is a form of resistance.
Mm.
So it's a transurfing concept that says when you drop importance, then things can start to happen for you.
Mm.
And that just means lowering importance, really. Just it's kind of saying, yeah, I want this, and then going about your day, getting a cup of coffee, going have, a walk with your friend, and just knowing it's done and being, like it'll happen when it happens. It's just not something I need to force. And when you're starting to force something, then you can get it done. It's happened. Things can happen by doing that, but it's much more pleasant, to use these other techniques.
Oh yeah, yeah. So I love your visualization about walking down a hallway, going through the door, and allowing almost at a cellular level to feel that what you're imagining is literally present.
Yeah. And it's really anchored in my knowing that whatever I want, I can have. The
Hmm.
how is none of my freaking business. The
Right.
when is none of my freaking business. It's
Yes.
just that I know this is it's the me in some lifetime is having this.
Yeah. And yes, I completely agree. And I think this idea of it only happens in divine time, not before that. And we don't really need to know how. We just need to focus on who we are at any given moment and
Mhm.
sort of see that happening and believe it.
Yeah. And I
And
would take the concept of divine time and kind of challenge that in the sense that the three-dimensional needs time to, like matter needs to rearrange.
mhm,
So we can call it divine time, or we can call it three-dimensional is just rearranging itself. And it takes a moment to do that. But things can happen very quickly. Things
yes,
can happen very quickly.
yes, yes. Um, and the reason why I'm saying talking about trips and divine time is because, for a while I had been wanting to go to the Bahamas. Don't ask me why. Just because people had been talking about it. And when we went, it happened in the most unexpected way, where my son had time off and wanted to actually spend it with us. And so, which is, given his working life, is kind of hard. Um, and so we ended up going to the Bahamas, where we met up with some friends, and it was just really different. It was a wonderful, wonderful vacation. And if it had happened, a few years before, like when I was wanting to go, it would not have been quite the same thing. So I feel like the delay creates, like, all the strands come together to create something different.
Yeah, it all aligns.
Yes, yes. And so, before we close, do we want to draw like an oracle card? And so let's tell people about why we're using the oracle cards.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay, so when we talked about like supporting ourselves, going through the doorway, I feel that there are also like additional tools we can always use to be always supporting ourselves into making that journey from believing to knowing. Um, and I find like an oracle deck is one of the ways, flower essences is one of the ways, the visualization is one of them. But I like the deck because it's not a tarot deck.
Right.
An oracle deck tends to be more positive, more life affirming, also telling you kind of what you need to shift. And so I have my favorite decks, as you do, Robin. And so I picked out a very old deck that I have, which is the flower therapy deck.
Ooh.
Um, and so I'm just going to um, sort to shuffle my deck and pull a card. And if you want to share which deck you're doing in the meantime, we can both pull
Yes.
one.
My deck
Uh,
is Angel Oracle deck. Oops.
can you hold it back a little?
Yeah, I
No,
have
back towards you. Ah, there we go. The
the blurry thing.
angel.
And it's by Amphika Waters.
Mm.
And it's beautiful. It's a beautiful gold angel, healing angel energy.
Oh, very nice.
So
Okay.
I will shuffle mine and pull one for the collective. Well, you get yours. Ooh.
So the one I got, which I don't know if it's possible to see on the screen. Let me see if it goes up.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It actually is, it says emotional healing. It's the bleeding heart flower, which, is kind of teardrop shaped and it is heart shaped and has like a little teardrop coming out of the end of it. And it's called bleeding heart. And it says, it's safe for you to let go of old emotional pain. And by doing so, you allow your heart to mend, which I think is perfect for today.
I
Because it's
think.
all about letting go of the past and moving on to something new.
I love that. And I selected, oh, come on. I'm gonna have to like do something different the next time. There
There
we
we
go.
go. Perfect.
The angel of freedom.
Ah,
And it's the function of the angel of freedom is to remove obstacles to freedom. And it can help us find our freedom, value its place in our lives, and cherish it in our relationships. So freedom. So
wow.
I think that's pretty cool too.
Yes, yes.
And
Yeah.
she's beautiful.
Oh, lovely. Oh, that. So on that note, we are ready to end for today.
Yes.
And we will see you. We will see you when you're back from Barcelona.
Yes. And I want to remind everybody, if they'd like to find you and have a session with you, to go to healyourancestralroots.com. And if you would like a session with me, you can go to yourpsychicgirlfriend.com.
Perfect. Great. So till we see you next time. Have
Yeah.